clever episode, and in the studio today, I've got Veronika from Brand Pxl. They're a chat marketing agency that primarily help medical businesses. I know there's potentially a shift happening in the business there in terms of target, and they generate qualified leads and sales through Facebook Messenger chatbots. And the agency also offers Facebook and Instagram ad services, as that's typically one of the main entry points into chatbot is through social media, paid ads and social media marketing. Veronika, super interesting space. As we were saying just before we hit the live button, that this is kind of the new kid on the block still.
Yes, definitely.
Super interesting. Thanks for jumping on the show. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, as you said, it's definitely quite a new kid on the block. So chat marketing has really just been around since 2016, when Facebook allowed messenger automations for the first time. And so it's just 5 years, although in the digital space, you can tell 5 years is a long time. Yeah. But yeah, with chatbots, there's still a lot happening in the future, evolving also with AI coming into the mix, and just having more options to automate, and be it business automations or just FAQs. So you can do a whole lot with chatbots in that sense. And how I actually got into the space, I fell into chatbot marketing sort of a little bit through a situation where when I started my own business, I first focused on Facebook advertising. So Facebook ads with organic reach being content, literally being almost dead. I saw that you have to pay to play in that sense. And that's why I never went down the content path, but really dove right into Facebook ads. And my very first client, she was also in the beauty industry, permanent tattoo artist, so eyebrows, lips, all sorts of things girls like to do to look prettier. And so for her, I did Facebook ads, and the idea was to just get people through the door with an offer. And what I did is I used email automation as a follow-up. So once they gave us the details to get the voucher, I then created an email campaign. And what we found, while we had quite a lot of signups, the email open rate wasn't that great. So I looked into, okay, what could be the reason? Because as I said, it was a lead magnet that actually had value. So people should be interested to open it up. But with email, it's such an exploited medium by now. So you get bombarded with emails, some go into spam, etc. And so I actually started actively looking for ways, what can I do in order to reach people and have them actually take that action? And that's how I started Googling and came across chatbots, which to date, until then, I only knew about those which were on the website, that facilitate customer support. And at that point, a few years ago, they weren't even that great. So I really dove into chat marketing, specifically Messenger, through a course then. I signed up to a course that taught me the ropes, because my background is actually marketing. Before I decided to venture out on my own, I had 10 years of experience under my belt in the marketing space. So it was my bread and butter. And knowing that the digital space, the digital first mindset was always important to move forward and continue to be successful in that space. That's how I then actually, as I said, ended up continuing the digital path with Facebook ads first, and then chatbots. I taught myself the ropes because it is a medium which you need to understand the technical side as well. It's not that you necessarily need to code, because there's software that you can use which does all the coding in the background for you, but you need to understand how to think logically, how to put integrations and automations into place. So in terms of how you approach it, it is, on one hand, it is very creative. So you have to have the creativity to be good at writing copy, know how to engage your target audience, etc. But on the other hand, you also need to be very analytical, because what chatbots allow you to do is to really analyze nitty-gritty how a consumer or a customer prospect goes through the conversation, what the experience is, and where the little pieces are which need to be tweaked in order for the conversation to really flow. So that's the beauty of it, that at every stage of the conversation, you get data and analytics that you can then use to improve the engagement, or to then say, okay, that really worked well. Maybe I can take that same strategy to different sort of niche or client, and see whether that works with them as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting space. And I like what you're saying is that it's this interesting blend between creativity and mechanics. So essentially you're building like the analogy that comes to mind is like you're pre-building a brain dump, a mind map. You're kind of pre-populating where you think people are going to go along the journey almost. Is that kind of the context of it? Because you're saying someone's going to hit the first point, someone's going to come here, they're going to send a message. That message is going to have 3 different replies. From those 3 replies, that's going to go to 3 different replies. So you're kind of pre-populating and almost guessing, data backed hopefully, but sort of assuming this sort of process that somebody's going to go through it. So it's almost like building out this entire network of communications before someone's actually started the communication. So I can imagine it is a very delicate blend of pure creative message, those marketing fundamentals of connecting and messaging and positioning and targeting and all of that stuff with, okay, what's somebody going to do once they've answered this message? What's the next step in that process logically, and then the mechanics of building that out.
Exactly.
So it sounds like a fascinating
it's
space.
A lot of consumer psychology in that as well. So being in the marketing space for so long, that is actually an advantage that I have, that I think along those lines. Okay, everything needs to be customer centric, which marketing should anyways be, because you fulfill the needs and wants of someone. It's not, okay, the business wants that, like a business doesn't exist if there's no customer. And so you need to always focus on how do we get them or convince them to go down a certain conversation, and also give them options based on like their interests. Because with a chatbot, the beauty is it is one-on-one. So when someone engages with a brand in a conversation, it's the undivided attention that that brand receives at that time. And if then the user experience is really good, and you give the person going through the bot what they want, then obviously that's going to be a great experience for them. And for you, actually just an extension of your brand, because nowadays, messaging apps, they have by long the number of people that are on the big 4 messaging apps. They actually back already quite a few years ago, so early 2015. That's when the collective amount of messaging app users surpassed the number of social media app users at that time. And that already showed us that people want to have conversations, and how people communicate one-on-one with each other, that always sort of leads into how people also want to communicate with businesses. And in that sense, chat marketing, or having the opportunity to connect one-on-one with a prospect, is definitely the way forward, that people at the moment and also in future would want to communicate with businesses.
Yeah, so with that in mind, that this is a space where you're kind of combining a human touch with a digital platform, a digital technology, and you're essentially, as you were sort of saying, building out this analogous spider's web of potential communication sort of process and journey. How do you start? Where do you begin?
So what I do is generally a 3-step process to build out messenger funnels, how they're called.
Okay.
So first is obviously you need to understand, that actually is before the 3 steps process story. You need to understand the core customer. So, you need to understand, you need to build an avatar. Who is the ideal client of the client that I'm serving? Who do they want to do business with? And once, I'm not going to go into the details of that, but once we have established who their ideal customer is, then it's also important to look at the client itself, their brand, because chatbots are an extension of their own brand. So what I generally ask is, what are 3 words that describe who you are as a brand? I also look at their website, their socials, how they communicate, just to ensure that everything is aligned with that and consistent in terms of that all of the different elements of their brand play together. And then you need to give the chatbot a bit of personality, because although it's automated and it's a robot, it should be fun, it should be engaging. Particularly on social media, people expect to be entertained. And so literally how you can build out those conversations, you can use rich media, you can use humor, depending on what your client is. So if it's a bank, for example, then you would probably tone it down than if it was a lifestyle product or a lifestyle brand. So you can be a little bit more quirky and fun. But once it's all established, going to the 3-stage method that I just mentioned previously before. So first, you need to actually figure out, how do we get someone into the chatbot? So there's various entry points on and off Facebook. So you can literally use Facebook ads, which you mentioned in the intro, and which is very true, is one of the main entry points into a chatbot, particularly also for cold audiences, people who haven't heard of you before, top of funnel. Then you can also put widgets onto your website. So for example, for e-commerce, one of the big things is cart abandonments. And you can technically put a widget up that as soon as someone adds to cart, pops up, and with some sort of message, then it wants to entice them to enter Messenger. Usually that is, for example, hey, if you want to get the best deals, you can find them in Messenger and be notified in there. So just giving them a reason to enter, that's another option. Or just generally on the website, on the homepage, hey, chat with us. And now QR codes are also back. Since COVID, everyone knows how to use them. So if you are a brick and mortar store, then QR codes are also something that you can just have at the checkout. Hey, join our VIP list for specials and deals. And so the world is your oyster. You can be very creative. It's just about figuring out, okay, what makes sense for that business? How do we get people into Messenger? How do we drive traffic? So once that's been clarified, then the second one is, okay, what are we actually giving subscribers once they're in the chatbot? What is of value to them? And that can be anything from, say, a coupon or an ebook. It again depends on what the client wants and what makes sense to them. Just anything that builds a relationship and leads to some level of conversion in that sense. And then the third one, which is actually the most crucial one. So you build up your list, and once someone subscribes to your chatbot, you can actually send them follow-up messages. So there is a 24-hour rule that you can only send unpaid messages within that time frame. And then afterwards, you can use sponsored messages, which are paid messages that, for example, again, if an e-commerce brand has key retail dates, say Black Friday is coming up, then all of the subscribers on the list are segmented. That's also an option to do. Like, you can really segment people according to their interests and how they've engaged with the bot. You can then send them messages that open up directly in the Messenger conversation. And that's where it's a lot more, the conversion rate or the open rate is a lot higher than with email. So that's where initially when I tried to research and say, like, how can I get someone to actually open up the email and click something? Exactly. So email on average is around 18% if it's a better campaign. And with Messenger, you can get up to literally 80% open rates.
Wow.
And the beauty is as well, because it's a medium where there's very strict policies, so you can't really spam someone. So it's permission marketing. They have engaged with you. They are in a conversation. They're a subscriber. They can unsubscribe at any time. But while they're a subscriber, it's also important that you obviously, based on their profile, don't send them something that they're not interested in, so that you really use a selective pattern how you advertise, so that you don't exhaust your list or just, like have a whole bunch of people unsubscribe because they don't want to hear from you anymore, because what you have to tell them is irrelevant for their certain profile or what they want from you in that sense.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So, for all intensive purposes, you're essentially using a messenger bot or a messenger community, I guess, as a replacement for an email list, or a chat bot list is kind of replacing that traditional email marketing list.
Exactly. But this said, because you don't own your messenger list, with email, you do own it. So Messenger is obviously great to engage people, but if lovely Mr. Zuckerberg decides to at some point shut it down, or because of other regulatory reasons, there was a few years back the Cambridge Analytica where bots for a while were just completely shut down. If something like that happens again, despite the very strict policies that exist around chatbot marketing on specifically messenger marketing, then like it's best if you kind of export those data out and build the list that you own, be it email or SMS. So nowadays it's quite important to look at marketing from a more omni-channel perspective. So you get people into Messenger, but then you want to actually also kind of entice them to give the details like email address or phone number, but obviously there needs to be a good reason for them to hand those details over. So phone number is probably a little bit more difficult than email, especially in Australia. What I found when I started it, people are very holding on tightly to their personal details, and so it is always important to also give the option to move those details outside of Messenger. Just as said, you never know when this breaks or is not available anymore. Changes happen, so you want to still own your list. And as said, you can do SMS marketing. You can still do email marketing. It's just, as said, in Messenger, the open rates at this point, because it's not an exploited medium, are a lot higher than anywhere else. SMS probably is higher than Messenger, because when you get a text message, you definitely look at it. So there's like 99%, I think, open rate. But looking at Messenger still, as said, you want to ensure that you somehow get the details to be able to communicate outside of Messenger as well with your audience.
They still want to get them off platform, but it's a great starting place. And what does content look like? I know that's a pretty broad question. It's going to be dependent on the type of client, say a bank versus a beauty salon, very different in terms of tonality and personality. But in terms of what do you see is working? Because obviously we look at things like Facebook and the platform side of things, video content, that sort of thing works really well in terms of content, or longer form in email, longer form copywriting can work really effectively. Do GIFs work really well? Is it a copy? Is it sort of traditional headline copy? Does that same stuff still apply, or is it a slightly different in terms of the content that works well in a chatbot?
It is very different to your typical email copy. So one of the things that is best practice, if a client actually has an email campaign or email funnel that works really well, you could technically take that funnel and replicate it in Messenger. And generally, you see at least twice the conversion rate in Messenger itself. But you need to, it is a conversation. So normally messengers use peer-to-peer. So you chat with your friends, and how you communicate in there's a lot of emojis, like short form, and that pretty much this sort of communication you want to also use within chatbots. So again, conveying information quickly in short form. When majority of people consume chatbots or social media messaging apps, obviously on their phone. And a rule of thumb is you never want to send such a long message that you have to scroll down or scroll up to start reading it, because it's all automated. So you really want to keep it short, sharp, and you also want to train the people going through the chatbot to respond. So that's what you mentioned, the buttons. There are buttons and quick replies, but also people can type in their own verbiage, which would be user input. So it is really a conversation. You don't market at someone, you have a conversation one-on-one with someone, and want to lead them down the right path for them, be it through, I can give an example. So a recent campaign that I ran for a cosmetic plastic surgeon, that was all about building trust. And the idea was to get people to book in or have a conversation around facelifting. So just to go from beginning of funnel all the way to the conversation, and then hand over to the actual client team that I work with, or one specific person who I always handed those leads over to. It is with cosmetic plastic surgery, it's not something that you buy on the whim. You do a lot of research. It is a high ticket product. So facelift is between 25 and 30,000, and you need to really target the right people. So we used customer lists, built lookalike audiences. It was a Facebook ads driven campaign. And so once someone entered the chatbot, in the ad, it was, there's so much information out there. A lot of it comes from non-board certified sources, and it's important that you get the right information. That's why I've created this mini consult that tells you about the ins and outs of facelifting, as much as I could put information online and without actually meeting you, already preempting, hey, in the end, it's best if you come in. And so someone starts the facelift mini consult, and there's questions around the age group, because depending on what age they are in, and also what their different concerns are, what the main concern is, you lead them down the path that they select, or with before and after pictures, because with cosmetic plastic surgery, you want to know what the result looks like, like that's the person before and after they've gone through it, that it's a very natural result. And then slowly leading on to, okay, we've got all the information also collected in one PDF that you can read at your own leisure. Would you want that? And you always need to ask them and give them the option to say yes or no. So you don't want to force them to take an action that they don't want to take. So you always need to give them an out of the conversation. But if you formulate it in a way that is non-threatening, particularly, I said, here in Australia, people don't like to part with their details in that sense. then in a non-threatening way, like the conversion was really high. So a lot of people gave their email, wanted the PDF, and then you ask them, okay, would you be interested in actually having a conversation around it? Would you want to come in, And so again, like if people said yes, they would be interested, then you give them the option, how do you want us to get in touch with you, because you don't want straight away to ask for their phone number. A few people gave their phone number as well, but select, do you want us to email you? Do you want us to call you? Would you like to call us? Or, oh no, I changed my mind. So that's where the psychology comes in. And that I kind of realize this as you build chatbots, and that's the beauty of it. You see how people interact with it, and where a lot of people get stuck in a message, then you know that you need to work on that message and tweak it. You kind of analyze why is that? Why did someone not continue the conversation here? Not just someone, but actually quite a few people. And then you tweak it, and then you see, okay, now they actually continue the conversation in that sense. So it is a chatbot is not a set and forget thing. You always need to iterate it. You split test, like with ads, you split test, you look what works, whether GIFs work here, or whether it's better just to have verbiage there and emojis. And you can do all of that. You can randomize messages that are sent, which have the same sort of idea behind them, but are presented differently. And then you can just see which one works better. And that's where the analytics side comes in, that shows you clearly, okay, well, message A with a GIF or with an image definitely way out past the other one, which just has text in performance. So that's the beauty of it, that you can really analyze everything.
Yeah. It's the beauty of digital and having that capability to split test, and like I said, find the blockage point in that sequence and then sort of fix it so it starts to flow through that blockage point and gets to the next point where you sort of see where in real time almost where people are dropping off.
Exactly. Yeah, it's actually really in real time. So, and all the automations that you put in place, which again, we can do so many different things for. The cosmetic plastic surgeon, I automated the sending of the PDF. So as soon as someone hit yes, gave us their email, they got that PDF sent to their inbox right away. And also with questions, because one of the big things that people at this point need to also understand is that a chatbot can't function on its own. We're still not that advanced that we can hand everything over to the chatbot. It's sort of a human and chatbot collaboration. So we will always have to have the option to hand things over to a human when the chatbot, for example, doesn't understand what someone typed in. That you kind of like, sorry, I didn't quite understand it. I'm pretty smart, but I'm still learning. Would you actually like to talk to a human? And then give them the option to do that. And then again, with business automations, the person I collaborate with at the cosmetic plastic surgeon gets an alert and a notification because they are the expert in that field. I've learned a lot in that space, but obviously they are the sort of sales rep in that sense. And so that would be then the handing over the conversation to an actual live agent who can then jump in and pause the automation. So that's very important at this point until, as said, AI is that smart that it can be injected and we just can sit back and twiddle our thumbs and everything's done by chatbots.
Yeah, give it like 2 years. But yeah, when it can understand natural language, and like you said, when it kind of goes off of script.
Which is starting to happen. So I experiment around with that as well, with Dialogflow, the AI, Google's AI, and that's definitely like the first steps into that direction to really understand intent and context. And even if a certain topic is presented with different words, that the chatbot then, based on the training that it received, or that AI, the training that it received, then really can understand and respond to.
Wow. Yeah, it's getting pretty smart. The AI and the machine learning. But maybe one day, we won't need people on the back end, but yeah, for now at least, you need that sort of redundancy of, hey, let's go speak to a human and sort of solve that problem where it's something that doesn't follow the exact script. I was actually going to ask that question, how do you manage that? But you sort of automate that again through business process that pings somebody, and there's always a contact team there available to jump in and so it says hit pause on the automation, so people aren't continuing message around, pick that up as a customer service agent.
Yes, exactly. So dedicated person with a client I work with, they are with them I collaborate. We build out workflows, how to just handle those conversations as well, what they need to do within the software that I'm using to build chatbots. Like a very simple explanation, like literally just a cheat sheet, and it's very easy, and it's worked really well because what our clients need to understand is that it is a collaboration. So we are both training the chatbot. I need the input for FAQs, and like especially now, if once I dabble more and more in dialogue flow, then that would be also training the chatbot together with certain phrases, because the more phrases intents we put into Google's AI, the better the AI learns and becomes smarter. So that's the next step for me also here with Brand Pxl, to really embrace the injection of actual AI into the chatbots, not just working with keywords and anticipating anything that someone can say and then having predefined responses ready to fire for that, but really working with AI to take it to the next level.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So is there, do you see like voice coming into play in chatbot? Because at the moment I type or I click a response. Is there talk in the space around allowance for? I mean, we talk to Siri and we talk to Google and we do voice search. Is that sort of natural language, that spoken natural language, something that you could see coming to chatbot, where I can reply by say yes, connect me, yes, I'd love to receive the PDF, and it will pick that voice up and send me and take the actions based on voice response? Is that something that is sort of coming through the pipelines?
I can definitely see it coming, because we have Google Home, Siri, Alexa, so all of those voice initiated AIs are already in existence. With messaging apps, obviously you type at this point, but who knows, maybe in a few years' time you just, instead of typing, you really just talk to it. You can obviously already do that with SMS now, that you just talk, like tell it what to say, and then it sends the message. So that is something that I definitely could very well happen. Very well.
Yeah, it seems to be
what is coming
moving
is,
that way. So yeah, whether it or not, but certainly moving that way to natural voice recognition and that kind of thing. So we're pretty interested in that, to sort of watch this space and sort of see what happens. But yeah, really fast moving, really dynamic environment that you're operating in. I think, given what you've sort of been able to lay out for us, there's a lot of value and a lot of benefit, particularly if you're getting 80% open rates. I can't imagine anyone out there's getting 80% open rates on emails these days.
No,
I mean, if you're hitting,
if you're hitting
20, 30%, if you're hitting 20, 30%, you're crushing it with email. Yeah, you'd be crushing it if you're hitting those sorts of numbers. But I mean, 80%, and then what the click-through rates sound pretty.
The click-through rate is also up to 60% click-through rate, so it's really high. And as I said, that's the beauty as well. Message per message, you can follow all of that and see, okay, that many people actually completed the conversation, and then based on those insights, again, you can iterate a few things here and there to just always improve on the chatbot conversation. That's where I said it's not a set it and forget it. You always need to keep at it and do monthly updates, weekly updates, depending on how evolved and how long the chatbot has already been in place, or that certain conversation. But it's It's not, okay, I've done it now and then I'll go away and just leave it to itself.
Right.
That's where also you expand on it. You mentioned in the beginning a network. So it is like a spider web, which you just build out more and more. And Messenger is also just the first domino in the game. So what's coming very soon is Instagram DM automation, which is huge because there's 1 billion active monthly users in Instagram. So not everyone obviously is on Messenger. The Messenger after WhatsApp is number 2. And then I just mentioned WhatsApp. WhatsApp automation is coming as well. So Instagram later this year and WhatsApp probably next year. So that's another whole audience that can be reached then with chat marketing, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, and you've got the skill set because it's all the same company, so that's perfect. Deploy the same. It's all Facebook, right? So
yeah, that's true. LinkedIn would be great. Chatbots for LinkedIn, that would be a good one.
Yeah. LinkedIn's pretty closed book with their allowance of automation and that stuff on the platform.
Maybe at some point,
whether that comes into LinkedIn, but I think it's quite a different environment on LinkedIn, and they're very closed book about there. They just don't. They really don't like any kind of automation. So, but yeah, it would be pretty cool to have that in LinkedIn as well. But certainly, coming and expanding out through the Facebook owned network through Instagram and WhatsApp, that'd be pretty powerful stuff. So sounds like you're well positioned to help businesses catalyze into that space. If people want to find out more about you, Veronika, get connected, where are the best places for them to come and find you? Other than, obviously, they can find you on Messenger, right? It's probably the best place to
Exactly. So that's what I said. m.me/Brand Pxl. That is the direct link into my own Messenger experience, or Brand Pxl's Messenger experience, where people can learn a bit more about bots, a few stats, and just see for themselves what a Messenger experience is like. Then I'm also on Facebook /Brand Pxl, and also just started on Instagram because Instagram DM automation comes. So at Brand Pxl, you can find me there as well. And then obviously my website, which is brandpxl.com.
Amazing. We'll drop all of those links as always in the show notes, so you can click on those and connect to her chatbot and find out how this works and see if it's going to be relevant to your business and how it might work. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting space, and I think it's something that can help out a lot of businesses too.
Yes,
particularly
definitely.
If people are used to doing email and they're sort of seeing that fall off. If this is a relevant add-on for your business, then you can increase those. You go from 18 to 80% open rates. I mean, that's a significant boost in communication. So yeah, very, very cool stuff.
Definitely. Or just see whether the open rates, the conversions are better in Messenger. That's why one of the best practice scenarios is take something that really works for a client, a funnel, and just replicate it in Messenger and see what the results are in there.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, then you've got a one-for-one, like oranges for oranges type of analysis, right? You can see it's doing this over here and that over here. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. If you're interested in that space at all and you think this might be something for your business, or if you're an agency that might like to sort of investigate how this could help you for your agency marketing too, really, right? Get in touch with Veronika, investigate the space. I think it's something that's obviously going to blow up again and get even more significant once the Instagram and the WhatsApp stuff comes in. 'Cause there's a lot happening in those spaces too. So
can't wait.
Cool stuff. Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Veronika. It's been really insightful. Great to hear about what's happening in this space, because there's not many people kind of playing too much in the chatbot arena. So yeah, really good to hear. Thanks for dropping by.
Thanks for having me. It's been a blast. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. It's been really valuable. I've learned a lot, and hopefully everyone listening has learned a lot too. So thanks for dropping by. Thanks, Veronika, for being here. Thanks for watching the show, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Thank you.